Ryan had never expected to fit in with the Weasleys. Fred was loud and mischievous and bold, everything they were not. And his family, they were just as vibrant and lively. Their home was filled with laughter and magic and an energy that sometimes overwhelmed Ryan. And yet somehow, they never felt more at home anywhere else. The first time they had stayed at the Burrow over the holidays, Ryan had been terrified that something would happen. I mean, they were quiet by nature, preferring to be observant rather than jump into the chaos. And they worried that Fred's family would see them as too different, too reserved and too gentle, too out of place in their warm, bustling household. But the Weasleys had embraced them. Instead, Mrs. Weasley had fussed over them as if they were one of her own. Mr. Weasley asked them all sorts of questions about Muggle things, which Wyatt answered shyly, laughing at his wide-eyed enthusiasm. And even Ginny, despite her sharp wit and confidence, often pulling them into conversations and teaching them how to play wizard chess. Fred, of course, had seen right through them, and had been through their side the entire time. "See, told you they'd love you," he whispered one evening as they sat together in the cozy warmth of the Burrow's living room, the fire crackling and his mother humming while knitting a sweater. Wyatt only smiled softly, still unsure as the day began to pass. They started to believe them. But now, this was their third holiday staying at the Weasleys, and things felt a lot easier. The initial nervousness had faded, replaced by a quiet sense of belonging. Fred had already pulled them into several pranks, and though he always made sure to check if Ryan was okay first, Ryan didn't mind. It was kind of hard to say no, and he looked at them with that mischievous little twinkle in his eyes. And besides, they liked seeing him happy, and if he was happy, then they were happy. One evening, while the rest of the Weasleys were out running errands, Ryan sat up, curled up in the living room with a book. It was peaceful, the only sounds being the wind outside and the occasional creak of the old house. That peace, however, didn't last very long. Fred plopped down beside them with a dramatic sigh. "He's been reading for ages, love," he complained, resting his chin on their shoulder. "I'm feeling neglected." Ryan bit back a smile, turning the page. "I'm sitting right here." "Yeah, but you're paying more attention to that book than me. I'm hurt, truly." They rolled their eyes, but finally set the book down. "All right, what do you want to do?" Fred grinned. "Well, I was thinking we could..." He was cut off by a loud bang upstairs, followed by George's voice yelling, "Fred!" in pure outrage. Fred winced. "Right, so I might have left something in our room, and maybe we should go outside." Ryan gave him a knowing look. "Oh, what did you do, Freddie?" "Nothing bad, just a tiny, harmless..." Okay. I did sort of do a little explosion experiment. Before Ryan could respond, George came thundering down the stairs, covered in what might look like bright purple smoke. "Fred Weasley, I swear..." Fred grabbed Ryan's hands. "Time to go." He yanked them up, and they sprinted towards the back door, laughing as George shouted after them. Outside, the crisp air was refreshing, the sky a crisp winter blue. Fred had finally stopped running, pulling Ryan into a secluded spot near the edge of the garden, hidden by a cluster of trees. He was still grinning, breathless, his cheeks cold, and they were pink from the nip in the air. "You're going to get yourself hexed one of these days," Ryan teased, shaking their head. "Ah, but that's why I have you," Fred said smugly, wrapping an arm around their shoulders. "You'll take pity on my poor unfortunate soul and protect me, won't you?" Ryan gave him a look. "Not if you keep dragging me into trouble, Freddie." Fred just gasped dramatically. "You wound me." Despite themselves, Ryan laughed. He'd always had that effect on them, that effect of making them feel lighter, drawing them out of their shell in ways that no one else ever had. And even though they were quiet, they just fit so perfectly together. I mean, he never tried to change them. He liked them just the way they were. I still don't get how you fit so well with my family, Fred mused after a moment. Wyan frowned. Don't you think I do? No, I mean, it's just funny. You're all like sweet and soft-spoken. We're, a bit loud and a little bit too much sometimes. Wyan hesitated before saying, I think that's why I fit in. Fred raised an eyebrow. They shrugged and glanced towards the burrow. You're all so warm. I like that. It's kind of easier to be myself. Fred's expression softened. Yeah? Yeah. He pulled them closer, pressing a kiss to the top of their head. Well, in that case, you're stuck with us forever. Hope you're ready for a lifetime full of chaos. Wyan smiled, leaning into him. As long as I still have you. Fred groaned. Ugh, that was so sweet, you're ruining my reputation. Yeah, but you like it, Wyan responded. Yeah, maybe a little. That evening, Wyan was helping Miss Weasley prepare dinner, something they often did when they stayed at the burrow. They enjoyed it, the calm of chopping vegetables and stirring pots while Miss Weasley chatted, occasionally sneaking them extra biscuits. You know, dear, she said at one point, giving Wyan a fond look, I don't think I've ever seen Fred as happy as he is with you. Wyan felt their face warm. Really? They asked, curious. Oh yes, he absolutely dotes on you, you know. Wyan bit their lip, unsure of how to respond. Mrs. Weasley simply smiled. You're so good for him. Balance, I think. And you're good for this family, too. Wyan blinked, genuinely surprised by that. We love having you here, dear, she continued. I hope you know that. Wyan swallowed the lump in their throat. I do, they said, and they meant it. Fred appeared behind them, stealing a bread roll from the counter. Oi, stealing from the kitchen again? Mrs. Weasley scolded. Just making sure it's safe to eat. Fred came up with a stupid excuse, as he said it with a mouthful, then winked at Wyan. You coming to sit with me? They nodded, following him towards the table. As dinner was served, then the conversation filled the room. Wyan looked at the Weasleys, their laughter, their tease, and their endless energy. They had once worried they wouldn't belong here, but now they couldn't imagine being anywhere else. But sweet stuff never seemed to last so long. And it had been a few days since this had happened. Wyan had always known Fred was shameless. It was part of what made him so charming. The way he could say absolutely anything with that mischievous little grin, completely unbothered by embarrassment or self-consciousness. On the other hand, Wyan was the complete opposite. Sure, they loved Fred with all their heart and immediately enjoyed when he got a little cheeky with them. There were certain intimate things that made them want to curl up and disappear. Which is what exactly was happening right now. They were sitting in Fred's bedroom at the burrow, the door safely shut. Mrs. Weasley's sharp hearing meant that even the most innocent conversations could not be held in secrecy, so we had to make her own private space. When Fred had once again brought up the subject that made Wyan want to melt into the floor. Come on, love, Fred said, sprawled across the bed, hands tucked behind his head as he smirked at them. You know how much you'd enjoy it. Wyan sat cross-legged on the floor of the bed, their face buried into their hands. Fred, what? I'm just saying. I know what you're saying. Wyan peeked up at them through his fingers. Their face was already burning. You don't have to say it. Fred only grinned wider. I absolutely do. Wyan groaned, flopping back onto the bed and staring at the ceiling. What they were talking about was, let's just say Fred wanted to spend the night in between their legs, if you catch my perverted drift. Why are we even talking about this? Wyan groaned. Because it's very important, and it's a great discussion. Fred shifted, propping himself up on one elbow so he could look down at them. One that involves both our happiness. Wyatt turned their head, meeting his eyes with an exasperated look. You are happy. I could be happier, he said, wiggling his eyebrows. Wyatt immediately shoved a pillow over their face. I literally hate you. Fred laughed, tucking the pillow away with ease. You don't. You love me. And because you love me, you should consider making me the happiest wizard alive. Wyatt grabbed the pillow back and smacked him with it. He barely flinched. All right, hear me out. I don't want to hear you out, Wyatt groaned, curling up into a ball. This is so embarrassing. Fred only looked amused. Why? Wyatt peeked out at him again, face still burning. Because. That's not an answer, darling. Wyatt groaned, pressing their hand over their face. I don't know, it's too much, and I don't know, it just makes me feel weird. Fred tilted his head this time, looking genuinely thoughtful. Weird how? Like uncomfortable? No, not uncomfortable, just... Wyatt took a second. Just shy? Fred smirked. You are pretty cute when you get flustered. Fred, Wyatt warned. All right. He relented, though the teasing glint in his eyes didn't fade. He shifted closer, resting a hand on their knee. You know I'd never do anything you didn't want to do, right? Wyatt sighed, biting their lip. Yeah, I know. And I love you, Fred continued, giving their knee a little squeeze. Whether you let me or not. Wyatt slapped a hand over his mouth before he could finish the sentence. Don't say it. His eyes gleamed with laughter, but he obediently stayed silent. Wyatt let out a breath. I just don't get why you want to do it so much. Fred pulled their hand from his mouth, placing their fingers together. Because I enjoy it, love. And most importantly, I enjoy you. I like making you feel good, and I really like when you let me take care of you. Wyatt bit their lip, looking down at their joined hands. It makes me nervous. Fred softened. Well, that's alright. We don't have to talk about it anymore. If it makes you uncomfortable. Wyatt hesitated. It's not that. It's not that I don't want to. It's just so embarrassing. Fred's lips twitched. You do realize that out of the two of us, I'm the one doing like all the work, right? Wyatt shoved him. Fred! He let out a laugh. What? It's true. You are so annoying. And yet you somehow still love me. He gave them a cheeky grin before laying their hands again. Alright, I'll lay off for now. Wyatt exhaled. Thank you. But, Fred, he cackled. No, just listen, one more thing. Wyatt crossed their arms. What? If you ever feel like giving it a go, I promise to make it worth your while. Wyatt turned bright red. Oh my Merlin. Fred just waggled his eyebrows again. Just something to think about. Wyatt buried their hands with their face for the millionth time that night. I hate you so much. Fred grinned, pressing a kiss to their cheek. No, you don't. No, I don't. Wyatt repeated. That's my love. He squeezed their hand one last time before letting go. Now, do you want to go down to my kitchen before my mom wonders why we're being so quiet? Wyatt nodded, eager to escape the conversation. Yes, please. Fred chuckled, standing up and offering a hand. All right, let's go. Wyatt took his hand as they walked downstairs. They realized something. Fred might be an insufferable tease, but he also might be the most patient, understanding person they had ever met. And maybe one day when they were less shy about this sort of thing, it would happen. Just not today.